What's up guys, Andre here, and today I wanted to rebuild a little UI component that I saw on DigitalOcean that I really liked. In my last video we took a look at how to use DigitalOcean spaces with Laravel, and while doing that I noticed this little UI component drop down menu here where we click it and some of the options you'll see that another menu slides in, and I thought that was really slick and really cool. And I figured, how about we go ahead and rebuild that? So let's use CodePen for this. I actually used to do these little exercises in the past where I would take nice looking UI components from Dribble and rebuild them in CodePen, maybe with some extra interactivity. It's been a while, but now that I'm doing YouTube, I figured, how about I share my process? So here I have some boilerplate code, just so we have a starting point and so it doesn't take too long. So let me quickly go over what I have here. It's not too much. Here's the markup. The header is here. That's just this part right here. We have our menu container, which is this drop-down container with the shadow here. And that's about it for the markup. For the CSS, I just chose a random font. In this case, it's Source Sans Pro. Some resets here, some base styles. This is just, again, the menu header here. I'm just using vanilla CSS here. Go ahead and use a preprocessor if you like. I'm using Font Awesome. You can see it's imported here. Here are all the styles for the menu container. Again, nothing too crazy going on. This little triangle piece here, I always use this site called CSS Arrow Please to build out that, and it's fairly common in the front end components world. What's next? So that goes all the way here. And just more styles with this, getting the spacing right, getting the colors, and getting this delete menu on the bottom correct. And that's our starting point. So let's go ahead and add some functionality to this. So the first thing I want to do is, if you look here, it's the menu sort of fades in. So let's go ahead and start with that. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is, for this menu container, let's change the opacity to 0 because that's our starting point. That should disappear, it does. And now let's add some JavaScript to add a class to that adds the opacity back. So again, I'm just going to use vanilla JavaScript here. You can use jQuery or ES6 if you want. So let's start off by grabbing the menu header. So to do var menu header equals document dot query selector, and let's grab the menu header, menu dash header. Let's make this a bit bigger. Next, let's grab the menu container, query selector, and menu container. Okay, and then let's add an event listener on the menu header. So menu header dot add event listener, and let's listen for the click event, and let's do a callback, and we're just going to add a class to that container. So menu container dot class list dot toggle, and we'll add an active class here. And in our CSS, let's go ahead and add an active class here. So dot active, and all that's going to have is the opacity to 1. And see if that works. There you go. So now it is toggleable. Is that a word? Toggleable? Toggable, yes. So let's go ahead and Let's fade it in and out. So to do that, all we have to do is add a CSS transition to our menu container. So right here, let's just add a transition all. Let's just use all because we're going to be doing more transitions later. Quarter of a second, and use whatever easing function you want. I'm going to use in ease out, and that should fade it in. There you go, fades in nicely. And the next thing we're going to do is, as you can see here, it not only fades in, but it sort of changes position on the y-axis just a bit. Let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so all we have to do that is back to our active class in our CSS. Just do transform, translate y, and we're going to translate 12 pixels or something like that. And that should just bump it down a bit. There you go. Gives that nice little effect. Cool. So now let's go ahead and work on this slider / carousel effect. So again, once we click on this one, it slides into another menu. Same with this menu item. And like I said, it's a slider / carousel, which is all over the internet. So our options are to either make one from scratch or to use an existing package. Although it's not too hard to make a slider, I don't want to make this video about how to make a slider, so I'm going to use an existing library. The one I chose is called Flickity, which is a really popular one, and it's quite good. The documentation is great, and it works really well. So I already have that imported here in our JavaScript right here. And let's go ahead and make use of it. So let's see how we use this. So this is the structure of it. So let's go ahead and mimic that in our markup. So within our menu container, we'll have something like that. And we'll just grab our UL here and we'll put it in the first slide. And let's just fix the indentation. And slide 2, we'll work on those later. 3, and does that still work? Yeah, yeah, it does. But obviously the other ones are showing. We don't want that. So let's go into our CSS. Let's make a new section here called Flickity stuff. And let's target the main carousel, main carousel. And let's set the overflow to hidden. Let's also change the outline to none, so that blue outline isn't there. Let's also change the carousel cell, carousel cell with 100%. Does that do anything? Save. So it's not working because you actually have to initialize it in your JavaScript. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's do Flickity init, if I can spell. Okay, so var flkty equals new Flickity. Let's target the main carousel. And let's just pass in some options here. The draggable option is on by default. We want that off because if it's on, we can't access the HTML elements inside of it, so let's change it to false. Again, all this is in the documentation. It's documented pretty nicely. By default, there are some previous and next buttons, which we do not want. We're going to implement those on our own. There's also page dots, which we don't want. And that's it for now. So now let's take a look at this. There you go. Slide 2 and 3 are not visible, so that's good. Let's just put the buttons back. And these ones should go to slide. There you go. There's slide 2 and there's slide 3. Okay. Let's put this back. Let's add one more option here called adaptive height. And let's set it to true. And when that's set, that's going to transition to whatever the height of the current container is. So let's just put this back for a sec. So the next slide should, see how the slide adjusts to this certain slide's height. We can also transition that if you want a little animation. And all we have to do is add this class. And if we do that, you can see there's an animation that happens between two slides. Just note that when you're transitioning height, it's not the best for performance, but in our case, it's fine because it's just a little component here. Let's go ahead and work on the other menus, specifically this one and the delete one. Let's start with this second one. Okay, so we called it slide 2, and it's right over here. Let's just set up our markup here. Actually, I'm going to name these accordingly. This one I'll call main-menu. The second one I'll call manage permissions. And the third one I will call confirm delete item. Okay. So the first thing I want in here is there's a previous arrow that goes back. Let's call it previous, arrow previous. And we're going to use font awesome. And the class is FA long arrow left. Okay, we'll make that absolute in the CSS in a second. H1, let's call it manage permissions. And for the content, some radio buttons in here. Input radio, let's call it permission. So ID equals private, value equals private, and let's make this one checked by default. Let's make a label for that. Private, let's call it private. Okay. Let's do the same for public. Radio permission. Oh crap, that didn't work. Public. And this one's public. Okay. And let's make a button. And it's class equals same at button dash blue, and the text of this button is called update. And manage permissions. Okay, let's go ahead and style this. Let's call it additional menu stuff. Okay. Style the arrow previous. I also know that I'm going to make another one for the other slide called arrow previous delete. Position absolute. Color E6 BFF, and cursor pointer Okay. So I don't want to make you sit through that CSS. So here's the end product here. It's pretty straightforward. You can just go over the code here. And I'll make the code available definitely on CodePen. I'm going to pause it again and I'm going to work on the other menu. And here's the end product for the delete menu. So the next thing I want to work on is, obviously these are not supposed to be here. Let's remove those. Let's work on, the navigation items. So we want to target this one and this one because these are the two that go to a different menu. So let's go ahead and put an ID on them. ID equals, let's call it go to new permissions. And let's make another one on delete and let's call it go to delete. All right, now let's go to our JavaScript and var go to new permissions. Just grab it, query selector, go to new permissions. Okay, and go to new permissions. Add event this click function. Okay, all we have to do is call flickety object and call the next function. So that should work for that one. Let's double check that works. It does. Let's do the same thing for the delete one. Let's grab this. Let's call it go to delete. Delete. Go to delete. And this one is going to be called, you can't call next, you have to go to the third slide. So to do that, you just do flickety.select cell, and we named that earlier, we named it confirm delete item. Confirm delete item. See if that works. Save it. And let's click this. Yep, there you go. Let's work on the previous buttons. So there's two of them. There's one on the second slide and there's one on the third slide. So let me just copy it so you don't have to watch me type. This is the one for the first slide for this one. And it's the same thing. We're just targeting this and we're listing for the click event, and we're just gonna go back to the main menu. You can also do the previous function, but we'll just leave it like that. So let's prove that that works. Okay, awesome. And let's do one for the delete slide as well. Same thing going on here. Again, we're selecting that. Let's make sure it works. Awesome, it works. But one thing you might have noticed is if we're going to the third slide, you'll briefly see the second slide quickly slide over. And it's not a huge deal. And you'll see it when you go back as well. But if you want to fix that, so in the case where we're going to the third slide, so this case, what we want to do is when we click this, we want to hide the second slide. So in here, we can just add a line of JavaScript that removes the second slide. And you'll see that it's hidden now. Oops, that's the wrong one. It's this one. You won't see the second slide because we hid it right here. But then we obviously want that to come back once we want to go to that slide. So for the first function, we can put it back. So that should do it. So you can't see it there, but when we go to it again, it shows up. Awesome. So there you have it, guys. I hope you enjoyed the process of rebuilding this little UI component. Although most people won't even notice minor things like this, I really personally appreciate it when an app has really good UI. Many times it'll be the deal breaker for me when I'm choosing between two services. If it has a really good UI, I'm going to go with that one. So kudos to all the designers and all the front-end developers who take the time to work on these little minor details. There are definitely people out there who appreciate it, like me. If you like this video, please hit that like button. If you have any suggestions for other UI components you think are worth taking a look at, let me know in the comments below. Please subscribe if you haven't already done so. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you guys in the next one. Okay, thanks, bye.